Alright, I finally got around to testing some of these yesterday, and it did not go well. Buffer tube snapped off on the FGC9, and the front mounting hole snapped. The skeet cannon, it just fell apart. Some of the damage was me ripping it apart to get the slide off because it had locked up. The FMDA DD17.2 broke when I forced it in the battery, and I had an out of battery discharge on the Bento Box 1022, and it blew the frame apart pretty bad. We're gonna try again, but one thing that I think may have been an issue with all of these is that I printed them with California Filaments PETG, and I printed at the very upper limits of what they say the filament will handle. And when I started looking at the pieces, they all look very, crystallized. They got very brittle. I ran them all, I believe it was either 245 or 250 with zero fan, which is what a lot of people recommend to make PETG as strong as possible. And it obviously didn't work out so well for me. I had the most issues with the blue filament. All three of the magazines that I printed split down the side. Not across the layer lines, through the layer lines when I was loading the magazines. I have pictures of those I'll throw in here as well. So I think the issue was this material is just too brittle to absorb the impact of firing a gun. So I have a few extras over here. These are both GST 3D PLA Plus. This one's also PETG, but it's Sunlu. We'll try it, we'll see what happens. The worst that can happen is it breaks. I probably won't mess around with the skeet cannons in for now. They take longer to print, they use more filament, and I want to make sure I have a material that's going to hold up. So right now I'm getting ready to print one in TPU, Chairman Wan's Big Coral Glock 17 in TPU, and we'll see how that holds up. I don't know if it'll be too flexible, but we'll find out. I noticed while looking over these that there is a gap between the bolt face and the back of the barrel, so I wanted to measure it, and I'm able to get a 0.635 millimeter shim, over half a millimeter of gap in there, and that's as far forward as the bolt goes. Now I did modify this. I welded the receiver together, but when I seated this, I seated it back as far as it would go. This bushing was glued in place. You can still see the epoxy on it. When the shell blew out the side, it blew all the plastic off, and I haven't got it apart to look yet, but it looks like it may have mushroomed out the back end of the barrel. I don't know if I'm going to be able to salvage anything from the barrel, but I do have enough barrel liner material to make a pistol length barrel. But I do have to reprint pretty much everything but the stock at this point. So I believe that may be part of the issue that caused the gun to explode so violently. I know in my other video I showed cycling rounds through it by hand and everything worked fine, but I did not check to make sure they were seating fully. There was plastic over this area that made it pretty much impossible to see into the air inside of the gun while it was in the closed position. So I'm going to assume that that was my fault for not measuring as well as I should have. When I seated the barrel, I had used my aluminum block to push the metal liner flush with the plastic barrel. Obviously there was an issue with that, and it didn't fully seat. Monday or Tuesday I should be able to put the video up of us shooting these guns and them failing miserably.